Hi everyone, I just wanted to let you know what the latest is as far as what we're going to be doing for clinical rotation. So I'm sure that you saw that I I added the assignment for the 3 visits that I wanted you to do. Obviously, because I don't want you going out, one of the things that you can do is to research the company and talk about one of the products that they make. Go over what the company does and also what the different products that they are manufacturing do, and pick one and actually go into the disease and what it's meant to do and what it's meant to treat. Okay, so that's for that. The midterm you guys have already submitted, so I'm gonna start grading those and post all the scores online so that you can get a look. And just remember, because of all the disruption that's been going on, I'm gonna be relatively lenient in giving out grades. And I even saw a petition online today from FIU students trying to make it so that the university will give the option for students to even get a pass-fail for different courses that they're already enrolled in. I'm sure that you've seen that the coronavirus is currently increasing in numbers because we've just started to do testing. So one of the things that I initially assigned you to read was about the healthcare system, the book that at the end of the semester you can do a report on. So one of the things that you can also consider including in that report is how the healthcare system and the changes that have been made have influenced the response to the coronavirus. So one of the aspects that the country is currently looking at is how can they really increase the number of ICU beds that patients have access to, because one of the problems with the current situation is that the coronavirus in maybe 5 to 10% of the population will go on to give relatively severe disease. In most of the cases, 80 to 85%, you typically have relatively mild symptoms, very similar to a cold, but you can get a headache, you can also have diarrhea, you can have shortness of breath. All of those things are potential, but the real danger sign is when you start progressing to get shortness of breath, and that translates into a pneumonia, because we've seen before that when organs start to struggle, particularly when you get disruption in oxygen extraction, that puts strains on the heart as well as other organs, and you start getting into problems. And particularly in the elderly population, that can be a severe issue. One of the good things that we've seen is that a lot of individuals are staying at home, but you still have some of the people down here in Florida that are going out into the beaches and acting like nothing is happening. So the problem with that is, I'm sure you've heard about flattening the curve and all the healthcare officials talking about that. So if the healthcare system gets inundated at one time, then you run the risk of totally inundating the emergency room as well as the ICU beds that are potentially available. And that is going to be a death sentence for those individuals who are unable to get access to ventilators. So this country has got to come up with a solution to try to stem the tide. And that solution currently is what's called social distancing. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with that. So try not to go out any more than necessary. Places like going to the supermarket and other getting drugs as well as food are obviously important, but many people have an issue with not getting paid because they've been laid off from work. So right now, as you see, the government is trying to come up with stimulus packages that will help those individuals. So I really miss having the class here to be able to discuss things, and trying to lecture to a camera is obviously not the best way to educate, but we go with the flow and we try to accommodate. So one of the things that the education system is going to have to come to grips with is also what lengths do we go to try to make it so that we can keep the content coming and to make it as instructional as possible. So one of the things I was looking at today is some of the issues that are currently facing the medical and healthcare professionals. One, the lack of ventilators. So one of the issues that they're asking, particularly biomedical engineers, is to come up with innovative solutions to potentially help those physicians who are out there. One of the things that I saw was actually having one ventilator potentially being able to be used on more than one patient. If we have like maybe 200,000 or 300,000 ventilators out there, that's an easy way to potentially double the capacity. Other things that I've seen that require medical innovation would be things that can protect healthcare workers from the spread of the disease. Today I saw that CDC is recommending that if healthcare providers run out of the N95 masks, that they use bandanas, which doesn't seem to be an ideal solution. Other hospitals are taking the masks that they have and sewing on different material to try to increase the lifetime of those particular devices. And when you think about it, the coronavirus has spread extremely rapidly. And what is the reason for that? Because nobody is immune to this virus. So it can go almost like a wildfire, and you have numerous people who have no immunity to it, and a lot of the individuals don't show any symptoms when they get it, so they're a main source of spread. Hence, we have the restrictions that are currently have been put in place. So one of the things that they're trying to do is to limit the rate of transmission to try to blunt the effect of having the hospitals really get swamped with patients. So one of the things that this class aims to do is to try to see also how government agencies handle different situations. So when you look at what they're doing to try to increase the rate of testing, what has the FDA done? They've tried to really streamline the process to get the testing kits approved. So now that currently states are allowed to certify different clinical sites to be able to do the testing, and a lot of the testing involves either PCR or antibody type reactions that are going to be very quick. So you're going to really see the cases going up, especially as we start more testing. And even today, there's still limited access to testing in many parts of the country. So it's a really severe situation. But good news is on the front that certain of the different antiviral drugs that have been used to treat other diseases like Ebola, as well as the flu, HIV, are utilizing things like transcriptase inhibitors, so RNA polymerase inhibitors, the RNA polymerase that actually makes a copy into the DNA, so it's RNA-dependent DNA polymerase. You have protease inhibitors, and they're currently ramping up tests for those agents to see whether or not individuals respond to them. And it's going to take a while to be able to determine what is truly efficacious and what is just hype. So we've got to really take our time in doing this, and as you heard, vaccine development has recently been approved for clinical trials, and they just injected the first patient probably about 2 days ago. But it's still going to take anywhere from a year to 18 months before anything comes out for public distribution. So we're still in it for the long term. So in this class, I apologize for not being able to go to companies or have individuals come in. We're still trying to figure out on the fly to convert a class from in-person to online. And with this class, it's particularly difficult because I like to discuss issues with people and hear your opinion. So if you have any suggestions of what else we can do, please send them to me, and I'm going to stick by the original grading plan as far as the 4 assignments that you are currently doing. The first one was the ICET. The next 3 can be about companies, and if you went to Heart Week, you can also substitute that for one of the visits or reports on the companies that I asked you to do. But I still want you to read the book and look at how the healthcare system has changed in the last 20 years and how that potentially influenced our ability to respond to the coronavirus. Because right now we've consolidated the number of hospitals that are out there, and the result of that is a lot of the hospitals are congregated in the big cities. So in the rural population areas like Montana, Utah, there are relatively few hospitals that people have access to. And the testing is also extremely limited in those areas as well. So if anybody has any suggestions of other things that we can be doing, or if you just want to hunker down and do the assignments that are out there, I'm going to obviously be very lenient in handing out grades for both clinical rotations and EBS. For EBS, those of you who are in clinical rotations, most of you are in EBS, I'm going to be busy making the test today so that I can post it online tomorrow, and that again is going to be due on Monday. So in the meantime, everybody please stay safe and do as much as you can to prevent the spread. So that means washing your hands and staying out of places that you don't need to be. Anyway, that's it for today. So we'll see you, or we won't see you until this virus is hopefully eradicated. And that unfortunately can take anywhere from a month to potentially, they're postulating, as much as 18 months. So stay safe.